5 zodiac signs who see through fake people early. Psychologists have proven that people who are better at spotting lies than others don't analyze words. They pick up on subtle facial expression in a fraction of a second. This happens subconsciously, but some people are better at it than others. In astrology, there are 5 signs with a natural, heightened sense of detecting insincerity. Subscribe. Here's why your sign sees people this way. Let's get started. Capricorn. Capricorn spots insincerity through structure. They don't read emotions. They read systems. They look at a person and assess what are they built on, what's real behind them, experience, effort, results, or just pretty packaging. That's exactly why it's almost impossible to impress a Capricorn with superficial glamour. They see the difference between a person who has built something and a person who has learned to look as if they've built something. Here's exactly how this plays out. In conversation, Capricorns ask simple, direct questions, and they listen to the answer very carefully. Not the words, the level of specificity. If a person talks a lot but says nothing concrete, Capricorn notices it immediately, without showing it. But there is one area where this ability fails him. Capricorn can confuse genuine modesty with suspicious vagueness. A person who simply doesn't know how to present themselves may seem unreliable to him, even though they are actually more reliable than most. There is another level. Capricorn is particularly perceptive with people who abuse power. They sense when someone is wielding authority without a genuine right to it, and they quietly step back. Forever. Subscribe to the channel. Here they explain why each sign sees people exactly this way, and where the true power of this insight lies. Gemini. Gemini sees insincerity through language, not because of what is said, but because of how, because of a pause where there shouldn't be one, because of excessive explanation where a single sentence would suffice, because of overly proper words at a moment when people usually speak more simply. Gemini thrive on communication. They've heard millions of conversations and have a very keen sense of the rhythm of natural speech. When that rhythm is disrupted, they notice it before they even consciously realize something is off. A specific example. Gemini suddenly stop engaging in conversation with someone who has just said something insincere. Not because they're offended, it's just that their inner interest has vanished. The detector went off, but there's a weak spot. Geminis sometimes mistake a boring person for a fake. If the conversation is uninteresting, they start to suspect that something is being hidden. Although in reality, the person simply doesn't know how to talk. Their ability to spot insincerity through words is one of the most accurate, but it requires that the Gemini themselves not get so caught up in their own analysis that they replace facts with their interpretations. Libra. Libra spot insincerity through a disruption of balance. They naturally sense where a relationship is equal and where someone takes more than they give, where words match actions and where there is a disconnect between them, where a person says one thing and does another, even if it's barely noticeable. That's why Libras often feel uncomfortable in the presence of people others consider wonderful. They pick up on subtle imbalances in behavior, how a person treats a waiter compared to how they treat a director. For Libras, this is the most accurate test, but there is a point where their ability weakens. They want so much to see the good in people that they can spend a long time justifying the insincerity they've already sensed. They tell themselves they might have misunderstood, that there's context, that they should give them another chance. And in this delay between sensing and acknowledging, they sometimes lose precious time. When Libras stop making excuses and start trusting their first instinct, their accuracy becomes nearly flawless. Leo. Leo sees insincerity through energy, They sense where true strength lies and where it is merely imitated, where a person speaks from inner confidence and where they are reciting a memorized script. This happens almost instantly, even before the conversation has truly begun. That's what makes them special in this regard. Leos live very openly themselves, and therefore they keenly sense the closed-off nature that masquerades as openness. When someone smiles but there's no genuine connection in their eyes, Leos see it. They don't always react immediately. They may continue the conversation, but internally they've already made up their mind. There's a weakness that's important to know. Leo can mistake someone who's actively fawning over him for genuine if it's purely a tactic. When someone gives Leo exactly the kind of attention he wants, his radar shuts off for a while. That's exactly why Leos sometimes trust people who are using them, and are surprised later that they didn't see it right away. Is your sign here? Write in the comments. Subscribe to understand your nature and your weaknesses too. Sagittarius. Sagittarius spots insincerity through direction. He doesn't dwell on individual words or facial expressions. He looks at where a person is moving, what they're actually building, where they spend their time, and he compares that to what they say. They disconnect between words and direction. That is what constitutes insincerity for a Sagittarius. They might not put it into words right away, but they sense that something doesn't add up long before it becomes obvious to others. There's another specific indicator. Sagittarius is particularly adept at spotting people who pretend to be wise or deep without any real experience, those who say the right things but have never lived through anything. He senses this immediately, but there's a trap. Sagittarius is sometimes so absorbed in his own vision of the big picture that he misses small but important signs of insincerity right under his nose. He sees far, but sometimes fails to see what's close at hand. And the most important thing here isn't what he sees, but what he does with it. Sagittarius rarely confronts, he simply walks away, distance in his way of responding to insincerity, and in this he is very precise.